Olivia had built an empire from nothing. No silver spoon, no hidden advantages, just grit, smarts, and years of nonstop hustle. And now, she had it all. A massive mansion perched in the heart of the city's wealthiest district, a business that operated like clockwork, and the kind of influence that left people either or fearing her. And honestly, she didn't care which one it was. Success was her only focus. As she stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of her mansion, she gazed over her sprawling property. Gleaming cars lined up in the driveway, perfect landscaping, and the city skyline glowing in the distance. This was her world, the world she had worked so hard to create. It was everything she had dreamed of. And then, Ethan walked in. Her husband, tall, handsome, and always perfectly put together. The picture of a perfect partner, on the surface. That evening, Olivia had planned something rare, a break from her hectic routine. She reserved a private dinner at his favorite restaurant, one he had been mentioning for weeks. When she told him, he smiled, kissed her cheek, and said all the right things. But something felt off, a coldness in his eyes. Just a flicker, but enough to catch her attention. He quickly replaced it with his usual charm, but Olivia couldn't shake the feeling. She dismissed it, brushing off the uneasy thought. Maybe he was just tired. Maybe she was overthinking it. After all, they had everything. What could possibly be wrong? And what happens when you've worked your entire life for success, only to realize the person closest to you might just be plotting your downfall? Ethan drove in silence, his hands gripping the wheel a little too tightly. The city lights faded behind him as he turned down a narrow, dimly lit alley. A lone figure leaned against a car waiting. Liam, Olivia's trusted business partner. A man she believed was loyal. A man who, just like Ethan, was tired of living in her shadow. "You sure it's done?" Ethan asked, his voice low. Liam nodded. "The brakes are cut. By tomorrow morning, she'll be gone. No one will question it." Ethan exhaled, running a hand through his hair. He had waited for this moment for too long. Olivia controlled everything. Her money, her business, even their marriage. Without her, he would finally be free, and richer than he had ever imagined. Liam had his own reasons. With Olivia out of the picture, the company would fall into his hands. She trusted him with every major decision, and once Ethan took over, Liam would get his share. It was a perfect plan. A tragic accident, no suspicion, and an empire left for them to divide. A few feet away, crouched behind a dumpster, a boy listened. Jake, 14 years old, cold, hungry, invisible to the world. He had spent the night in this alley, hoping to get some sleep before the streets got dangerous. But now his heart pounded. He had just heard two men plan a murder. And not just any murder, Olivia, the woman people talked about like she was royalty. He should run. Forget he ever heard anything. But something inside him wouldn't let him. If he stayed quiet, someone was going to die. And for the first time in a long time, Jake had a chance to do something that mattered. Jake sat in the freezing alley for hours, his mind racing. He had spent most of his life being ignored. Just another homeless kid people walked past, without a second glance. If he tried to warn Olivia, would she even listen? Worse, what if Ethan found out? A man like that wouldn't think twice about getting rid of some street kid who knew too much. But if he said nothing, she was going to die. By morning, Jake had made up his mind. He didn't care if she believed him or not. He had to try. At sunrise, Olivia stepped out of her mansion, dressed sharp, focused, ready for the day ahead. Her driver had the car waiting. A high-profile business meeting was on the schedule, one that could make or break a major deal. The last thing she had time for was distractions. That's when she saw him. A boy, dirty, shivering, wearing clothes 2 sizes too big, standing in the middle of her driveway, blocking her car. His arms flailed wildly as he shouted something she couldn't hear at first. Her first reaction was irritation. What was this kid doing here? Security would handle him. But as she rolled down her window, the words hit her like a slap. "Don't drive. Your husband cut the brakes." The weight of it hit Olivia all at once. She stood there, in the quiet of her garage, staring at the car her husband had nearly killed her in. The same man she had trusted, the man she had built everything with. Ethan was the one who had tried to take her life. It was almost impossible to believe, yet the evidence was clear. He had planned it with Liam, someone she had called a friend. For a moment, she felt numb, unsure of what to do. But the anger started to bubble up, sharp and clear. She wasn't going to let him get away with it. Olivia turned to Jake, who was standing beside her, still unsure whether he was part of a dream. He had saved her life, but the danger wasn't over yet. If Ethan knew she was alive, he'd do anything to finish what he started. She had to act fast. They quickly came up with a plan. Olivia arranged everything to make it look like she had died in a tragic accident. A staged crash, carefully planned, with just enough detail to fool anyone. It had to be convincing. Olivia would vanish, but only for a while. Ethan and Liam would think they had won. As the day went on, Olivia's disappearance was all over the news. Ethan and Liam breathed a sigh of relief, convinced their victory was complete. They celebrated in secret, already talking about how they would take over her business. Ethan was already planning how he would use Olivia's power and wealth to control everything. They thought they were free. Meanwhile, Olivia and Jake were working in the shadows. They recorded every conversation, every slip-up. Ethan and Liam didn't realize they were being watched, but Olivia knew that the truth would come out. She wasn't going to let them take everything from her. Slowly, piece by piece, they collected the proof they needed to bring them down. The game was far from over. The day had come. Ethan sat in the law office, confident that his plan had worked. He had gotten rid of Olivia, and now everything she had worked for, the mansion, the business, the wealth, was going to be his. His hands trembled slightly as the lawyer began reading Olivia's will. But the words that followed were nothing like what he had expected. The lawyer read aloud the clauses, each one making Ethan feel more and more certain that the inheritance was his. But when it was time to announce the final section, everything changed. The lawyer's voice faltered. Then he paused. The will had a hidden clause, one that no one knew about. Before anyone could react, the doors to the room opened. The gasp from everyone was unmistakable. Olivia stepped into the room. Alive. Ethan's face drained of color. For a moment, he couldn't move. He looked like he had seen a ghost. His plan had failed. Olivia had not only survived, but she was standing there, ready for the world to know the truth. Olivia didn't waste time. She pulled out her phone and pressed play. The room fell silent as the recordings of Ethan and Liam's conversations filled the space. Every word they had said, every plan they made to kill her, was there. Olivia's voice was calm as she explained how they had betrayed her, but the rage behind her eyes was undeniable. Ethan's eyes widened with panic as the police arrived, walking in to arrest him and Liam. There was nowhere for them to run. They were trapped. As the handcuffs clicked shut on Ethan and Liam, Olivia turned to Jake. She had not forgotten his bravery. She smiled at him, a look of warmth and gratitude on her face. "You saved my life," she said. "Now, I'm giving you a chance to have one." Jake was stunned as Olivia made arrangements for him to start over. She found him a home, ensured he got an education, and gave him the opportunity to live the life he had always dreamed of. For the first time in a long while, Jake had hope. Olivia had shown him that even in a world full of betrayal, there was always a chance for a new beginning. As Olivia sat in the quiet of her office, she couldn't help but reflect on everything that had happened. She had come so close to losing everything, her life, her empire, all because she had trusted the wrong people. But in the end, she realized that what she had gained was more valuable than any of that. The power of trust and the unexpected people who can change everything. Jake was a reminder of that. The homeless boy who had nothing but his courage had saved her life and shown her that loyalty wasn't something you bought. It was something earned. Jake had come a long way. No longer a scared runaway. He had found a new path, one that was full of possibilities. He was determined to make the most of his second chance. Olivia had given him a future, and he wasn't about to waste it. Together, they had learned something important. The real power in life wasn't in money or influence. It was in the people who stand by you when everything seems impossible. With the right people by your side, you could rebuild anything, and no empire was truly strong without loyalty and courage at its heart.